The Zorthan dreadnought drifted through the void, aimless and without purpose. It had been hours since Elias Wren had left the bridge, but the tension inside the ship was still thick, suffocating. Commander Vral had never known such fear. The humans, with their singular ship, had dismantled his forces, disabled his technology, and erased any hope for retaliation. But it wasn't over. Not yet. From his command chair, Vral stared at the holomap. The galaxy was vast, filled with empires, alliances, and endless opportunities for conquest. Surely, he thought, surely there were other powers that would come. Others who could avenge their defeat. They had to be out there. His claws tapped nervously on the console. The longer they stayed in this empty space, the more he felt the weight of their defeat. The ship was dead, its systems in chaos. His warriors were broken, and the humans were still out there, in the shadows, waiting. But then a flicker on the screen caught his eye. A transmission. A single, encrypted signal, too strong to be ignored. "Commander," the officer at communications said, voice trembling, "there's an incoming message. It's from a human vessel." Vral stood up, his heart pounding. On screen. Now. The signal cleared, and there on the screen appeared a face, but not Elias. This was a woman, her face calm, collected with an eerie sense of authority. "Commander Vral," she said, her voice smooth but laced with an icy resolve. "I am Captain Kara Wren, Elias's sister. You are not alone in this galaxy, and you are far from the first to make the mistake of underestimating humanity." Vral's breath caught in his throat. Another human. No, this wasn't possible. How many of them were there? "What is this?" Vral growled, his mind reeling. "You were supposed to be finished. You should be gone." Captain Wren's eyes never faltered. "We're not finished, Commander. We're just getting started. And as for what you've done, the message has already been sent. Every human survivor is watching, waiting. And when we rebuild, we won't just rebuild Earth. We will rebuild this entire galaxy, starting with you." Her smile wasn't kind. "I'm sending you a message from my ship, one of many. Your dreadnought may be dead, but there are thousands more like it. And they will fall, one by one." Vral's mind was racing. He had made the mistake of assuming this war could be won easily. He had underestimated the humans before. But this was something else entirely. They were no longer a simple species to be eradicated. They were the ghosts of an ancient, unyielding will. "You are no different than your brother," Vral hissed, his voice trembling. "You're just as dangerous, and just as foolish." Captain Wren tilted her head slightly, her smile widening. "I'm not foolish," she said quietly, "but you are. You fail to understand the most important thing about humanity, Commander." "And what is that?" Vral demanded. Her smile deepened. "We never stop. We always come back. And this galaxy, it's ours now." With that, the transmission cut off. For a moment, Vral just stood there, staring at the blank screen, his mind spinning. The dreadnought was already dead. His warriors were broken, trapped within their own fear. And the message from the Wren siblings had made one thing very clear. Humanity wasn't just a force to be feared. They were a force of nature. A constant, unyielding storm that would not rest until every corner of the galaxy bowed before them. He looked around at his broken ship, the wreckage of a once proud empire. He realized, too late, that this was no longer about one ship. It was about something far more terrifying. The endless, unshakable will of humanity. The dreadnought was dead. The ship was nothing more than a floating husk in the black emptiness of space. Its systems were no longer functional. Its once proud war machines turned to useless scrap. The Zorthan soldiers who once held it in reverence, who thought they could crush the last remnants of humanity, were now scattered in disarray, trying to understand what had just happened. Commander Vral's claws dug into the shattered control panel, but there was nothing left to control. He had seen the transmission from Captain Kara Wren, and even now, the weight of her words echoed in his mind. They will rebuild this galaxy. The thought sent a chill through him. How could a species so small, so seemingly insignificant, bring about such destruction? How could one ship, have caused the Zorthan Empire to fall apart? How could these humans, with their endless persistence, their refusal to accept defeat, be so powerful? He had underestimated them. He had believed the Zorthans were invincible. But now, they were the ones on the losing end of a war they didn't even understand. Vral stood up slowly, his eyes drifting across the silent bridge. His mind raced. There had to be something, some plan he could enact to salvage what was left. He could still escape. He could still flee to a distant corner of the galaxy, find a new home, and rebuild his forces. But deep down, he knew the truth. The Zorthans had already lost. Not because they lacked power or numbers, but because they had made the gravest mistake. They had underestimated humanity. On the Valkyrie, Elias Wren sat in the command chair, staring out at the stars. The ship was silent, but not in the way it had once been. The hum of its engines, the faint flicker of its systems, it all felt alive. Beside him, Kara Wren stood at the observation window, her arms crossed. She had watched the final moments of the Zorthan dreadnought's destruction from the command center, the message they had sent clear. This was the beginning of something far bigger than anyone had imagined. Are we really ready for what's next? Kara asked, her voice steady, but filled with a rare uncertainty. Elias didn't look at her, but he felt the weight of her question. There's no going back now, he said, his voice calm. Humanity has always been a species on the edge, surviving against odds no one else thought possible. But now we've become something more. The galaxy won't be the same, and they won't forget what happened here. Kara nodded slowly. We've started something that can't be undone. This won't be just about revenge anymore. It will be about reshaping the galaxy. She glanced at the view outside the window. The stars, distant and cold. But she didn't see emptiness anymore. She saw opportunity. We can take this fight anywhere, Elias. This isn't just about surviving anymore. It's about thriving. Elias finally turned his gaze to her, a faint smile playing on his lips. You're right. This is just the beginning. Humanity will reshape the future of this galaxy. There was a moment of quiet, an understanding between them that had been forged not just by blood, but by years of struggle, sacrifice, and a refusal to give up. Ready to send the message? Elias asked. Kara's eyes locked with his. The message is already sent. The human fleet, scattered across the stars, had already begun to reorganize. With the Zorthan's destruction, a ripple had begun to spread across the galaxy. The message of humanity's rise was not just a victory, it was a declaration. They would never be forgotten. They would never be weak again. Back on the broken Zorthan dreadnought, Vral's gaze fell to the floor as he slowly realized the scope of his failure. His species, the Zorthans, had never truly understood the humans. They had seen them as a fleeting, insignificant force to crush. But now, humanity had become a force of nature, unstoppable, unyielding, and forever intertwined with the galaxy's future. The Zorthan dreadnought was dead. And so, too, was the empire he had once thought would dominate the stars. And somewhere, in the distant corners of space, a spark had ignited. The rise of humanity had begun, and there was nothing the galaxy could do to stop it. When the lights flickered back on, the bridge was still, silent. The air was thick with fear, but also a strange sense of inevitability. The Zorthan dreadnought had been overtaken, its crew, its systems, its very essence now under the control of something far older, far more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. Vral stood motionless, watching the humans move through the bridge like phantoms, swift, silent, but with purpose. Elias Wren was still in the center, his eyes never leaving the commander. His expression wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was pity. You don't understand, do you, Commander? Elias asked softly. Vral's voice was thick, You can't win this war. We'll rebuild. We'll bring more ships. You'll fall. Elias shook his head. This isn't about war. The Zorthan gasped. Then what? This is about survival, Elias said, his voice steady but cold. The kind of survival that requires more than weapons or numbers. The kind of survival that doesn't stop fighting, even when all hope is lost. The kind of survival that remembers everything. Behind Elias, the other humans moved like shadows. No longer bound by armor, no longer bound by the need for war. They were soldiers, but they were something more. Their eyes glowed faintly, and every movement was precise, synchronized. Elias continued, "We are humanity. And you made the mistake of thinking we were weak, that our small numbers, our few ships, would be easy to crush." Vral's jaw clenched. "You sent one ship," he spat, voice filled with venom. "And we destroyed your homeworld. We took Earth once." Elias didn't flinch. "You took Earth once, and you'll never take it again." The words echoed like a distant memory, like the last words of an old world long gone. Elias stepped forward again. "The ship you see before you, Commander, is not just a ship. It's an extension of everything humanity is. It is a weapon born of necessity. It's the result of countless failures, endless perseverance, and one simple truth." "And that is?" Vral asked, heart pounding. Elias' lips curled into a faint smile. "We learn. We adapt. We never forget." Vral's knees buckled slightly as the weight of those words sank in. The lights dimmed again, and the view outside the window changed. The stars themselves seemed to shift, rearrange, and for a brief moment, Vral saw it, not just Earth, but the entire human race, watching, waiting, silent, unwavering. "Your fleet is gone," Elias said quietly. "But it's not just your fleet. It's the last of your kind." Suddenly, the ship's gravity shifted. Vral struggled to keep his footing, and the bridge crew began to panic. "What are you?" Before he could finish, Elias raised a hand. "Don't worry," he said softly. "The world will keep turning, and you'll stay here." Vral gasped as the entire dreadnought began to shake violently. He watched helplessly as the walls started to close in, not through attack, but through a force greater than any weapon he had ever known. It wasn't destruction. It was rebirth. The last thing Vral saw before everything turned black was Elias Wren's face. Calm, resolute, and at last, at peace. The dreadnought disappeared into the vastness of space. The Valkyrie remained, suspended in the dark, surrounded by nothing but stars. Earth had sent one ship, but they had sent everything. And the universe would never be the same. The cold silence of the bridge was deafening. Commander Vral stood motionless, his claws digging into the edge of the command table as the remaining crew members watched helplessly. The humans had taken the bridge. No fight. No warning. Just sudden, overwhelming presence. One ship, one human, Elias Wren, had infiltrated their entire dreadnought, disabled their systems, and turned their technology against them. "Where are the reinforcements?" Vral croaked, his throat dry. "Where is the fleet?" Elias smiled slightly, his eyes locking onto Vral's, as if he could see right through him. "You're the last of your kind, Commander," Elias said quietly, his voice calm yet full of something far colder. "You were too late to understand. Humanity doesn't need fleets. We don't need numbers." Vral's mind raced. How? How could they possibly send just one ship and overwhelm an entire dreadnought? "We will rebuild," Vral growled, trying to regain some semblance of control. "You cannot win this. We will call for reinforcements, and you will fall like all others." Elias's expression softened, but there was no mercy in it. "We don't need to win. We don't need reinforcements. We're not here for victory, Commander. We're here because you made the mistake of thinking that we could be crushed." He took a slow step forward, the humans behind him moving in perfect synchronization. You may have been the strongest force in the galaxy for a time, Elias continued, but we are something different, and we have been watching. We learn from every defeat, every loss. We adapt. We evolve. The Zorthan soldiers stood frozen, unable to even lift a finger. Some couldn't even look at the humans, their minds trapped in a web of terror and confusion. Vral's claws trembled. But Earth is gone. You're just survivors. You're nothing but an echo of what once was. Elias's gaze never wavered. You were right about one thing, Elias said, his voice still smooth, unwavering. Earth fell. It was destroyed more times than you could imagine. But we always came back. We always found a way. Behind him, the humans moved as if drawn by some silent command. They stepped forward in unison, their faces expressionless but their eyes filled with purpose. It was as if they shared one mind, one soul. Vral's eyes widened. You've merged with your technology, he whispered, slowly realizing the magnitude of what he was seeing. Elias nodded slightly. We are no longer just humans. We are a collective force, a force that will rebuild from nothing, adapt to anything, and destroy anything that threatens us. Vral's heart raced. You're unstoppable. Exactly, Elias replied. And we won't stop until we've erased the threat of any species that dares to think they can control us. Vral stumbled backward, his eyes darting to the monitors, which now flickered with strange symbols, something foreign, something human. Elias turned away, his soldiers following. This ship will remain here, Commander. You'll live long enough to spread the message. Earth's survivors are here. And the galaxy will know that humanity is no longer just a memory. With one final look, Elias Wren exited the bridge, his voice echoing through the ship's speakers. One ship was all we needed. The Zorthan dreadnought sat silent in space, drifting without purpose. The battle was over. The universe had just learned what it meant to challenge humanity. Earth had sent one ship, but that was all they ever needed. Deck 17 was chaos. Zorthan warriors, trained in 100 battle doctrines, stood frozen behind barricades, rifles ready, eyes wide with panic. The internal lights flickered with an unnatural pulse, like a heartbeat, but it wasn't the dreadnoughts. It belonged to the Valkyrie. There in the walls, one soldier whispered, gripping his plasma rifle tighter. No footsteps, no motion on thermal, just vanishing. Down the hall, two warriors moved forward slowly. They turned a corner. Gone. No screams, no gunfire, just silence. Then came the whisper through every speaker, every helmet comm. Elias Wren's voice. This is not revenge. This is correction. On the bridge, Commander Vral leaned over the command table. His scales were slick with sweat, his claws digging into the metal. They've taken decks 17 through 12, reported security. They don't leave bodies. Just emptiness. Organic traces vanish. We don't know how. They're humans. Vral snapped. We've fought humans before. No, said a quiet voice from Tactical. Not like these. The lights dimmed again. The temperature dropped. The main display activated by itself. Elias stood once more, looking directly at them, as if he could see them through the screen. We watched your conquests, he said calmly. We heard your threats. You spoke of domination, of extinguishing weaker species. But Earth doesn't fear extinction. He leaned closer to the camera. We remember it. A flicker. The screen changed and showed Earth, or what was once Earth. Cities turned to glass. Skies burning. Wreckage of alien invasions. The aftermath of ancient wars. Vral's eyes narrowed. You destroyed yourselves, he said. Elias nodded on the screen. Many times, and each time, we rebuilt. Smarter, stronger, angrier. Behind Elias, another human soldier passed, faceless helmet glowing. He paused, looked into the camera, and then stepped through it. The screen cracked. Vral turned fast. He was here, on the bridge. The human stood silently, armor hissing with low energy, head tilted slightly. Then another appeared beside him. Then another. Security, Vral shouted, backing away. Fire. But the weapons officers didn't move. They couldn't. One by one, their hands dropped from the controls. Not dead. Paralyzed. Frozen in place, eyes wide with something beyond fear. The human stepped forward without a word. A Zorthan officer lunged, claws raised. The human caught him midair. There was no struggle, no sound, just a flash of white. The Zorthan was gone. Not dead, just erased. Elias entered last. No armor now, just his gray uniform, slightly torn, eyes calm and tired. He looked directly at Vral. "You wanted Earth to kneel," Elias said. Vral backed into the command rail. "You came with one ship," Vral hissed. Elias smiled. "No, I came with a promise." He stepped forward. "You'll live, Commander, but only long enough to deliver a message." The lights cut out. Then came Elias's voice again, whispering through every system on the ship. One ship was all we needed. Alarms blared on the Zorthan Dreadnought's bridge as the shuttle transmissions went dark, not due to jamming, but because the feed simply stopped. Commander Vral stared at the blinking red icons on the tactical display, each representing a boarding party now lost to silence. "Still no comms?" he asked, voice tight. "None. All 3 shuttles have gone dark," the comms officer answered. "No signal. No life signs. Nothing." "They didn't even fire," muttered the weapons chief. "We didn't detect a single shot from the Valkyrie." "That ship's alive," said Vral. "It thinks." "Sir?" someone asked. "It let them in," Vral said slowly, as if the words were venom. "It wanted them to come aboard." The bridge crew fell quiet again. Suddenly, the Valkyrie moved, but not toward Zorthan Prime. It pivoted back toward the Dreadnought. No weapons charge, no shields raised. It simply floated there, drifting closer, its sleek surface reflecting the Dreadnought's hull. "Distance, 3,000 units and closing," the sensor officer called out. "Velocity is minimal. Almost. Peaceful. It's taunting us." Vral growled. "Get the main cannon online." "I want it obliterated." "Main cannon offline," replied the weapons tech, still rebooting from the EMP pulse. Vral's nostrils flared. "Secondary weapons. Offline." He turned to engineering. "Can we ram them?" "Engines are at 20%. If we push to full thrust, we might get a burst." Vral made a decision. "Do it. Full acceleration. We ram them. And we end this." The Dreadnought engines roared to life with a deep rumble. The massive warship surged forward, massive hull groaning under the pressure. But the Valkyrie didn't move. Instead, it vanished. One blink, gone. Every eye on the bridge went wide. "Where is it?" Vral shouted. "Reacquiring." The sensor officer gasped. "Sir, it's above us." Above. The entire Dreadnought shook violently. Then the lights dimmed. "No impact detected," said the damage control officer, stunned. "But the reactor's unstable. Power fluctuations across every deck." "Bridge to lower decks." Vral barked. "Report." No response. The hologram flickered. A new image replaced the tactical map, the hangar bay inside the Dreadnought. But it wasn't empty anymore. They were here. Humans. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. All in sleek armor, glowing eyes, moving with perfect coordination, like one living organism. And at the center, Elias Wren. No helmet. Calm. Focused. He stared directly into the bridge's live camera feed. "I told you," his voice came through. "This was your second mistake." Then he raised a hand. The feed cut. On the bridge, backup lights flickered on. Red. "Internal breach confirmed," shouted the crew. "Multiple decks. They're moving toward the bridge." "How?" Vrall demanded. "This is a sealed vessel. We didn't dock." No one had an answer. The dreadnought trembled again, not from impact, but from something deeper, mechanical. The sound of the ship's own systems turning against them. Vrall finally understood. The Valkyrie didn't disable their systems from outside. It infected them. This wasn't a warship. It was a weapon. A message. Earth didn't send a fleet because they didn't need one. They sent Elias Wren. And now, he was inside. The command deck of the Zorthan Empire's dreadnought was calm, its massive view window showing the quiet stars beyond. Commander Vrall stood with arms behind his back, his obsidian scales shimmering under the control lights. "Only one ship," he repeated, staring at the holo display with disbelief. "Yes, Commander," the tactical officer confirmed. "Human vessel. Single class. Frigate-sized. No escort." The entire bridge chuckled. Even Vrall allowed a small smirk. The Zorthans had conquered 6 systems this month alone. When they demanded Earth's surrender, they expected fleets, desperation, perhaps even an attempt at diplomacy. But Earth had sent this. "Perhaps they didn't take our warning seriously," said Captain Kurith, licking his teeth. "We should destroy it as a message." "No," Vrall said. "Let's see what kind of insult they think this is." A transmission came through, audio only, a calm male voice, clear and slow. "This is Commander Elias Wren of the human ship Valkyrie. You are in violation of Earth sovereign space. You have 20 seconds to reverse course." Silence. Then laughter broke out across the command deck. Vrall motioned to cut the comms. "Aim all ion batteries at that toy ship. Target engines first. I want it disabled, not destroyed. We'll drag it back and display it over the capital." Weapons officers locked in. Targeting arrays warmed. A ripple of excitement swept across the crew. But then something happened. The Valkyrie moved. It wasn't a normal maneuver. It didn't match any known thruster burst, no gravitational assist, no FTL pattern. It blinked, not warped, blinked, forward. One moment it was there. The next it was directly in front of them. "What?" Vrall stepped forward. "How is that possible?" The Valkyrie released a single pulse, not a missile, not a beam. A sphere of white light, expanding fast. Shields rippled and collapsed in seconds. Every weapon system on the Zorthan dreadnought failed. Every screen turned black. Then, just static. For 5 terrifying seconds, there was only silence. When the systems came back online, the dreadnought's entire fleet, 17 cruisers and 2 carriers, was gone. Nothing remained on the scanners but dust and faint debris. Only the Valkyrie stayed, still hovering. Then another message came through. "That was your warning." Vrall stood frozen. His crew whispered in panic. For the first time in his career, he tasted fear, and the Valkyrie didn't leave. It waited. Commander Vrall's claws trembled slightly as he gripped the command rail, eyes fixed on the human ship hovering in space like a silent ghost. His dreadnought, one of the most powerful in the Zorthan fleet, had just been rendered blind and helpless in a single strike, and the rest of his fleet, gone, as if they had never existed. "Status report," Vrall growled. His crew scrambled. The tech officer's voice cracked. "Main power is unstable. Backup systems are holding, but targeting, propulsion, and long-range comms are down. Rescan the field," Vrall barked. "Already did," said the sensor chief. "There's nothing, sir. No wreckage big enough to trace. Just trace elements, vaporize alloys." Vrall turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to High Command. Tell them Earth has technology we've never seen. This is no longer a routine conquest." "We can't," the officer replied, pale. "The Valkyrie is jamming us." Silence returned to the bridge. The human ship moved again, slowly now. It turned, not toward the dreadnought, but toward Zorthan Prime itself. Vral's eyes widened. They're heading for the homeworld. No escort, just one ship, the weapons officer whispered. And they're not afraid. Vral straightened, regaining composure. Prepare a boarding crew. We need to understand what we're dealing with. We'll send shuttles. Capture that ship. Dissect it. But the shields, the officer began. Vral's voice cut him off. We'll overload our plasma cores. Direct it through the launch bays. That much energy will punch a tunnel through whatever shields they have. Minutes later, 3 boarding shuttles launched, protected by redirected core energy. The moment they passed through the Valkyrie's perimeter, a strange stillness settled over space. The lead shuttle pilot called in. We're in, approaching docking bay. But what they saw inside wasn't expected. The Valkyrie's hangar doors opened voluntarily. No guns, no defenses, just a vast, glowing chamber, silent and waiting. The Marines entered, armored and armed, but no alarms sounded. No resistance. They moved slowly, passing walls of black metal laced with a pulsing white glow. Inside, they found a single humanoid figure standing at the far end. Tall, wearing a lightweight armored suit, helmet off. Human. He had a calm expression, hands clasped behind his back. I'm Commander Elias Wren, he said. Welcome aboard. The Marines raised their weapons. Elias didn't flinch. You came to conquer. You threatened our people. What happens next is on you. One of the Marines stepped forward. You're alone. Elias smiled faintly. That's what the last 17 ships thought too. Suddenly, the walls of the hangar shifted. Panels retracted, revealing rows upon rows of stasis pods, each containing a soldier. Human. Not sleeping. Waiting. Their eyes opened in unison, glowing with faint golden light. Elias said one word. Awaken. The pods hissed open. The Marines backed away. And on the Dreadnought's bridge, Vral watched the feed cut out, replaced by a warning message in Earth Standard. Your first mistake was underestimating us. Your second was stepping aboard.